Okay, so have you ever gotten to your hotel room in a foreign country, exhausted from traveling, just wanting to plug in your phone, and then it hits you?
That sinking feeling when you realize your charger doesn't fit the wall.
Yeah, I think we've all been there. It's like the universal traveler struggle, isn't it? And this week's deep dive is all about making sure that doesn't happen. We're taking a closer look at this blog post, Beware Electrical Outlets and Travel, from a website called Traveling in My 70s.
Sounds like this blogger has probably learned a few things the hard way over the years.
Oh, absolutely. They definitely have some stories. Like they talk about this time their colleague tried to use a hairdryer in a hotel in Milan, plugged it right into the wall, no converter, nothing.
Let me guess. Poof, lights out.
Pretty much. Blew a fuse in the entire room, I think. It's a good thing they weren't using a curling iron at the same time, right? But it brings up a good point. Why are some things, like hairdryers, so susceptible to these voltage differences?
It all comes down to how much power they draw, really. Anything with a heating element, hairdryers, curling irons, electric kettles, those are the big culprits.
So they're using more electricity, which can be a problem if the voltage isn't what the device is expecting. Makes sense. But what about smaller things? Like, I always get nervous about plugging in my electric toothbrush when I'm traveling.
You're right to be cautious. While it might not cause a full-on power surge like a hairdryer, using the wrong voltage can still damage smaller electronics over time. Though the good news is that a lot of newer devices, especially things like phone chargers and laptops, are designed to handle a range of voltages. They've got those built-in converters.
Oh, that's good to know. But I'll be honest, sometimes even when I see those voltage ranges printed on a device, I'm never quite sure what they actually mean. How do you know if yours is truly a globe-trotting gadget? So I'm guessing those voltage ranges are a good thing, right?
Definitely. If you see a range of voltages printed on your device, like 110, 240V, that's a good indicator that it has a built-in voltage converter and can handle different electrical systems. It's like a universal translator for electricity. But even with those adaptable devices, you still need to make sure you've got the right plug shape to actually, plug it in.
Right, because having the right adapter is just as important as having the right voltage. And let's be real, sometimes those international plug types can be a bit intimidating. It's like a whole other language.
Tell me about it. It's like they looked at all the different electrical outlets in the world and said, hold my beer, watch this. You've got your type A, your type C, your type G, each with their own quirks and regional variations.
Exactly. And if there's one region that seems to trip people up, it's South America, right? Our blogger had a whole section dedicated to it.
Yeah, South America can be tricky because you've got a mix of voltages and plug types even within the same continent. For example, Colombia and Ecuador use the standard 110V like North America, but most other South American countries are on 220V.
Like they said, let's keep everyone on their toes. But okay, so let's say you've done your research, you know the voltage and the plug types for your trip. What's next? Is it just a matter of picking up any old adapter?
Not quite. Not all adapters are created equal, unfortunately. You definitely want to invest in a quality universal adapter. The cheap ones might work in a pinch, but they can be a fire hazard. Literally.
Okay, so safety first, got it.
Yeah.
But what makes a universal adapter high quality? What should people be looking for?
Surge protection is a big one. That's going to protect your devices from those unexpected power surges that can sometimes happen, especially in older buildings or places with, shall we say, character.
Right, because the last thing you want is to fry your phone or laptop because of a power surge in your hotel room. So, surge protection, check. What else?
Well, a lot of the newer universal adapters also come with built-in USB ports, which can be super handy for charging multiple devices at once. So you're not stuck trying to hog all the outlets in the room.
Which, let's be honest, is a travel nightmare in itself if you're sharing a room with someone. Speaking of maximizing those precious outlets, I loved this tip from the blogger. Pack a small power strip.
Ah, yes, the humble power strip. Never leave home without it. It's amazing how such a simple thing can make your life so much easier on the road. You've got multiple devices to charge. Boom. Instant charging station.
And no more arguments over who gets to use the only outlet in the room. But even with all the right gear, it still comes down to knowing your devices and what they can handle. Those voltage ratings we talked about earlier. How can people be sure they're interpreting those correctly?
It's usually pretty straightforward. There's almost always a label on the device itself or in the manual that tells you the input voltage range it can handle. If you see something like 100, 240V, you're golden pretty much anywhere in the world. But if it only lists a single voltage, like a 120V, you'll need a voltage converter in addition to your adapter for international travel.
Okay, so it's like a little electrical passport for your gadgets.
Yeah.
And if there's ever any doubt, what's the best course of action?
When in doubt, always check with the manufacturer. They're the experts on their products and can tell you exactly what you need to use them safely.
Safety first. Always. It's funny how something as seemingly simple as plugging in a device can actually be so nuanced when you're traveling internationally.
It really is. It just goes to show that even in our increasingly interconnected world, there are still these little quirks and differences that can trip us up if we're not careful.
Absolutely. And sometimes those differences can actually lead to some pretty cool experiences, right?
Oh, totally. Tell me you haven't snagged a one-of-a-kind souvenir from a local market just because you knew you had the right adapter at home.
Busted.
Yeah.
I might have a slight weakness for vintage lamps. But that's kind of what I love about this whole topic. It's not just about avoiding a travel disaster. It's about how understanding these little things can actually enhance your travel experience. It's like those little adapters become your passport to a whole other side of traveling. You're not just a tourist anymore. You're like an electrical explorer.
Exactly. You're not afraid to venture off the beaten path, to discover those hidden gems.
And who knows? Maybe that knowledge even helps you connect with locals, spark up a conversation, learn something new.
It's those unexpected interactions that often make the best travel memories.
Couldn't agree more. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from the science behind those quirky little outlets to the art of packing the perfect power strip. But ultimately, it all boils down to being prepared, right?
Absolutely. A little preparation goes a long way. And honestly, it's not that complicated once you know what to look for.
Exactly. So for our listeners who are already dreaming of their next big adventure, let's recap some of those key takeaways, shall we?
Let's do it.
First things first, research. Before you even think about packing your bags, take some time to figure out the voltage and plug types they use in the countries you'll be visiting.
Yep. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to keeping your devices juiced up on the go.
Once you've got that down, invest in a good quality universal adapter. And don't forget to look for one with surge protection.
Yeah, because the last thing you want is to fry your electronics because of a power surge in your hotel room. Been there, done that. Not fun.
Definitely not ideal. And if you're anything like me and you travel with practically every gadget under the sun,
you and me both. I've got chargers coming out of my ears these days.
Then a small power strip is your new best friend. It's like having your own personal charging station no matter where you go.
Saves a lot of arguments, too, if you're sharing a room. Trust me.
Oh, I believe it. And last but not least, don't forget to check those voltage ratings on your devices. That little detail can make all the difference.
Absolutely. Knowing your devices is just as important as knowing your adapters.
It's all connected. Well, there you have it, folks. We've armed you with the knowledge, the tips, and hopefully a newfound appreciation for the fascinating world of international electrical outlets.
And maybe even inspired a few adventures along the way.
You said it. Thanks for joining us for this electrifying deep dive. Until next time, safe travels, and may your plugs always find their sockets.